what I tell people now, you can't joke around with your health until you have a scare.
Yeah.
I keep telling people will say, no, I can't do it. I can't work out. You guys wake up at 5 a.m. It's all okay until they tell you that now you need to live by this. You will wake up and do it.
True.
So I keep telling people, don't wait to reach at that level.
Yeah.
I don't think I want any. If you ask me any advice, I'll tell a young person, don't be fat. Because the amount of challenges you're going to face are totally different. I went to aerobics class. I found they were recording me. Who likes recording videos? The first time I entered an aerobics class, there was a camera like this. So that's why I tell you that me and cameras. There was a camera like this. I moved out. I said, me, they post me on TikTok. And then people
I have a very
saying,
dear friend who does workout videos, but I'm like, I'm sorry, no.
I'm like, they see me on TikTok, and you know how TikTok is. They'll be saying, that short, fat girl, she even doesn't know how to dance. I'm like, no way. No way. I left that class. Oh, I didn't mention that I joined also another class where the trainer just stopped the music and said, you're lazy. You're lazy. There's no way you have to repeat it again. And I have told people that we've gotten used to unkindness, that we think that's the way to go. I said, that was wrong.
Yeah.
So the trainer comes to me and says, it's your first day. Take it at your pace.
Yes.
Even if you cycle
you can even get an injury.
Yes, he said, even if you cycle going backwards, all I need you to do is cycle. Just don't worry where the bike will be going. Then there was someone who knew my partner and came to talk to me after class. Said, no, it's okay. It gets better with time. Some of us have been cycling for 10 years, 8, and somehow, as I've told you, we work well with reassurance. So I felt like I think this is a good environment. That set my tone, by the way.
Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. It is so good to be back here on Crystal One-on-One. Excited about my guest today. Now we are on location at La Casita Restaurant and Lounge. It's along Intinda 2 Road, a lovely green spot. Do visit, it's quiet, they have great food, and you'll have a good time. Now today I am excited to catch up with someone who I interviewed before on radio. Now, at the time, we were talking about her passion for etiquette, not something you come across every day. And she's an etiquette coach, but she's so many other things. She is a foodie. So, man, I need to eat her food one of these days. And of course, she's a travel enthusiast. She's a lifestyle influencer, a mom, and so much more. I do have Dorin Kansiime joining me on Crystal One-on-One. Hello, Dorin.
Hi, Crystal.
How you doing?
Good. How you doing?
I'm good.
Thank you for having me.
It's nice to have you. I feel like as I was introducing you, I needed to add workout queen as well, because your love for spin class and the gym, you've been sharing a lot of that.
Thank you.
And I can see the results. How are you feeling?
Extremely good.
Yeah?
It feels good, honestly. And I think that's why it gets better each day, because of that feeling. You feel good and you're like, I think tomorrow will be much more better.
Okay, so you were telling me before we started that apparently this is not new, that you used to work out even more before.
Yes, 7 years ago, just had my second son.
Yes.
And I thought I was done with childbearing. And at that point, there was a movement of women working out.
Okay.
And I remember I just had my baby was 1 year and 3 months. So I said, oh, there's something going on around these days. Women are trying hard to lose weight, because I'd never really put effort in losing weight before, and I was never a small person really. But I think we never understood this thing of health and wellness and working out. So I joined the movement. I picked it up, loved it, worked out so hard. I think obsessively. I want to, when I look at it now, my appreciation of wellness now is different from then.
So what was your motivation then? Was it like you wanted to lose weight
Yes.
after having your son?
Yes, I think my motivation then was to lose weight.
Okay.
Whereas my motivation this time has been different. So I worked out excessively, changed my diet, flipped it all like a 360, and excessively. I would meal prep, move with my food. It was strict.
So in terms of there's the Atkins, now there's people go vegan, then there are the people who have small meals, but they count, they basically
They weigh
really
grams.
weigh. Ha, that's what you did. You did the portions.
I didn't.
I've seen someone where every portion is like this, but they're like 7 meals a day. What were you doing then?
So what I did then, there was a clinic by then that had just opened at Kisementi. It was like a wellness clinic, an American clinic. I joined the clinic. It was things where you even know your body mass, your body fat, and all that. I did meal prep. I turned completely vegan, not even vegetarian, for like 6 months. And for someone who loves meat, I ate tofu, I ate soy meat. That's why I tell you that it was a bit obsessive. When I now
I know myself,
later
I can
learned,
never do it. I cannot give up meat. I'll be honest.
later when I learned even about mental health,
Yes.
I learned some conditions bring obsessiveness. So I also try to think that was a bit of it, because I think I really wanted to lose weight, which I did about like 25 kilograms. And
That's a lot.
It was a good feeling. I enjoyed it for 2 years. But I feel like I also a little bit along the way got like hormonal imbalance.
Okay.
So I started to relax it out. And you know how they say, I took a break from the gym for 1 month. To return later, it was 6 years.
It happens.
It happened
And maybe
like that.
because at the time you were going so hard.
Yes.
So even the thought of like getting back into that frame of mind was difficult.
And you keep telling yourself that, because I know how to go about it, I will return. Then it's a month, it's 2, it's 3. Then I had a baby later. That's like 2 years. It's also, I say, I enjoyed
baby.
it. Yes. The 2 years. So that's why most people actually think that I have 2 boys.
Yes.
Because that's all people knew. Then later on, because Mark is 10, this one is 5. So there was such
there was quite a break.
such a gap. Then I had Luke. And you know how then we get into childbirth and recovery. The next thing, I'm a fat person.
Apparently we're not supposed to use some words. Yeah.
I'm no longer the girl who was in her glory. So that's how life turned out for me. But yes, I have lost. But people probably, I was not on social media.
Yes.
I was on Facebook, but not quite a lot. I wasn't on Instagram. So people who are seeing me now, people who don't know
People
me,
have followed you on social media.
so think I've just lost weight now. But the actual people who know me, they know I've been at this game. And actually people would tell me, we know you will get back. And it can be such a dangerous thing to be in, of saying, I will get back. I know what to do. I know what to do, but somehow you never get yourself to do it.
It's the motivation.
So I'm like in my
struggle with the motivation.
second season.
You're in second season.
Yeah, it's just
now.
that my approach now is different. I'm more focused on my well-being. The weight loss has come, which I love, but I'm more focused on a sustainable way of living. I'm no longer obsessed about any diets, obsessiveness of working out. It's not that anymore. I started slowly because I wanted to pick up something for my mind mostly. So as the weight loss has come along the way, I enjoy it, definitely. But now I am more focused on something that I'm going to focus on for life.
But they always say that diets are not sustainable. You have to look for something that can become a lifestyle and something that works for you.
Yes.
Because I'm also that person, I believe, if someone goes vegan, that's well and good. Good for you, not for me.
Yeah, if it works for them.
But you see, I don't know. The more you learn, sometimes you hear about blood types, sometimes you hear about genetics. So different foods affect us in different ways. So what works for you, but most importantly, that you stay healthy in mind. Seems that's what you're
Yes,
looking for.
for me, that has been the most important thing of what can I manage as me in terms of nutrition and in terms of exercise. What can I manage at my pace and what can I sustain? Because the truth is, people think it's miserable and some people make it miserable, like working out and the extreme diets.
Oh,
And
yes,
you see, the
yes,
thing is that
yes,
they
yes.
play with your mind. The moment you pause like this,
And that's the problem with diets, because you put on the weight you lost and more.
add more.
And it
Because
makes you
see,
feel worse.
the cravings, it's like saying we are waiting for you. We are waiting for you. So for me, it has been eat slow, one day at a time.
Okay. Well, good for you.
Thank you.
Now, Dorin, we've already jumped into where you are now, this season in life. But for people who have maybe not heard your story, just tell me about little Dorin. Where did you grow up?
From the most remote village down. You know, we like to say, oh, you know, I come from Tungamo. It sounds cool because it's so generic. No, the district is in Tungamo.
Uh-huh.
Then sometimes we even say, I come from like a long Kabade road. No, I come from a little village in Tungamo district. Deep, the village is called Chempene. I keep saying I grew up from the most toxic and unpolished village. Yeah, but here we are.
Okay. Toxic. Why toxic?
I guess the circumstances of the growing up, now that I look back, you know, of course, when the high levels of illiteracy,
Yes.
you know what that means. The understanding is ish-ish. Raised in a home that a leader was a lady.
Okay.
That made it extremely hard. I mean, and back then, even now, because we
Yeah.
still struggle with the same things even now. So you can imagine what it was so many years ago at a village setting. They were never used to women separating with their partners. So and then we find ourselves carved in a little world of me and my siblings and our mother.
Okay.
Oh.
Because your mother made the choice to
Yes,
leave.
it was such a difficult. You literally, everywhere you passed, people identified you by that. It was such a difficult. You literally, everywhere you passed, people identified you by that. Also, you see these children, oh, you know, their mother was married to the other one, but they divorced. So it was different. And so now you can imagine by the levels of their illiteracy, exposure, understanding. And you know, these are villages where literally everyone, that's where you grew up from as a little girl. Then you got married in the same village. Your relatives are there. Your in-laws are also there.
Yeah.
It's chaotic. That's where we grew up from.
Okay. All right. Did you ever feel like you were treated differently as a girl? How many siblings did you have?
I have two. I have one amazing sister
Yes.
And
who you
one
travel with a lot? Uh-huh.
and one brother
Okay.
who is not around.
Okay.
When he's back, this city will feel us.
Okay.
So it's just the three of
three of
us.
you.
It was different, definitely. I keep, even now, like where I grew up from in the village, people still say, oh, my mother, they keep saying in her first child, who is me, no, she got a boy instead out of it, because as a first child, I guess I had to step into the role of being now like my mother's partner.
Yeah.
So I never felt the difference of how, you know, you're a girly and it's soft life, I guess that's what we call it. I never experienced that. Felt like I was more into a place of responsibility from when I was
firstborn,
understanding.
but also you were like your mom's assistant parent.
Yes. I keep telling people that it's different to be a firstborn to an African single parent. Those two
The
are different.
expectations,
The expectations, the responsibilities. Because where I am today, I am 33, but it feels like I've lived for 40 years. I carried my siblings, I took care of them, I took care of the house, I did all the housework. And then of course you have your mother putting all these expectations of you are my first child, you know, and when things fail they will laugh at us. So the expectations, the pressure, it was different.
Wow. Yeah, you must show people
Yes.
that we are fine, that we will be fine.
Yes.
And also you know, your siblings are looking at you.
Definitely.
There's always that pressure as well. Okay. So where was school then?
Krista, you're a girl of the city. You remind me when I had joined campus. When I joined campus, you know, those first days when you've reported as freshers, so in class, and there are cliques, Smack, Marcos, all Budo, la la la. Us who came from the village. So I'd say, I come from St. Mary's. Saying Smack. But I didn't want to add that the other word is Rushorosa. In Kabale. So you find like you're the only one who comes from all the way that far. But thank God later I found my friends whom had gone to school together. I did Bweranyanji for my first 2 years of O-level. One because, I mean, I had qualified and my mother was really passionate about education. She would do anything under the sun for you to get a better deal.
Yes, yes.
Even when we grew up from the village, really. I remember by then, like amongst our peers in the village, I was the only one who crossed over at that year to go all the way to Bweranyanji, which was in Bushenyi.
Okay.
My mother was really so passionate. But later she had to change because she felt it was far and unsafe for a girl child. Because I had to take myself at the beginning of the term. So she said, I'm going to change you from Bweranyanji, but I'm going to give you an eco version of the same school, but in Kabale. Kabale and Tungamo are very close. So that's how I went to St. Mary's Rushorosa, which is in Kabale.
Okay.
Then for A-level, my sister had joined a girls' school because for her she wanted a single girls' school. So she had joined Homeby Girls, which was also in Kabale. And mother said, now since she's there, I can't separate you. It will be hard for me to, like, for visiting days. So I want you, all of you, to be in the same locality. So my brother was going to a boys' school in Kabale. Me and my sister were also going to a single girls' school in Kampala. So it would be easier that at the beginning of the term she's taking all of us at the same time.
At once.
Visiting days, because she was the only one. We didn't have any other person in our life who would say, let's split. So she would have to come for all of us the same time.
Wow. So basically you're saying even in terms of family, there was not that much support.
No, there wasn't. Because you see the dynamics of I don't understand how families are in the city or for us in the village. It was unheard of for a girl to divorce. It was an abomination. They treated women differently. I mean, they expected women to stay.
Yes.
So when she broke up, sometimes I don't know the right word to use, broke up, separated, divorced with her person.
I just say left.
when they decided to give up on the love.
Yes.
Both of them, I want to imagine. For us, we don't know.
Yes, yes.
So
true.
definitely it means she lost attachment to the man's family, but then also now she didn't have attachment with her family, who were ridiculous of, how did you ashame us? You know, how did you leave? How could you leave? So she found herself in a space where she didn't have a fallback.
Yes.
So that's how I say that.
So she had to make it work.
Yes, she had to carve out a little world for her and her 3 children at this point. So that's how it was. There were no family attachments. Up to today, I still tell people I've had to make family either through friends or to find people. Like go back in time and see were there any uncles that popped up in our lives at some stage and make family of our own.
Wow.
So that's what it was. So then after senior 6, I was admitted to Chambogo University. Again, bless my mother. She said, you are my first child, you must get a degree. Because I had a scholarship for diploma. And she weighed in and she said, I don't have the money, definitely, which she didn't have, but you are my first child. You must go My mother doesn't give up on anything. She said, you must make it to you can't be my first child and you don't get a degree. It's because she had seen, experienced herself. She had done a diploma. So she had a dream of seeing her child get a degree. So she said, whereas this diploma is government funded, I really think I want you as my first child to get a degree. So she came, my mother came herself to pick my admission from Chambogo University, herself. So that's how I got into Chambogo University for university.
Okay.
Yeah, same with my sister later, and then my brother ended up at Makerere.
So you said your mom had a diploma. She got to a diploma, and she was very passionate about education.
Yes,
she felt that education would change your life, would open doors for you.
She felt like she didn't have much, which she didn't. She used to have a joke of, I don't have cows, I don't have goats, the only thing I'm going to give you is education. And she felt like she was who she was a bit because she was able to access some level of education. My mother came to Kampala in the 70s, in the 80s. She did school here. So she always had that in her, that my children, at least, because she kept saying, I don't have an inheritance, which she didn't have, which she doesn't have probably. But she kept saying, the only inheritance I'll give you is education. That passion drove her, because I look back and wonder, how did she make it? She didn't have...
Isn't that the question? Sometimes, you know, you really have to ask that question. Like, how?
How did she make it? She just had a little shop. She had no support from the man. She had no support from her own family. But she had to make it work. So she was very... Even now, she's still passionate about education.
Okay.
I feel like we are what we are now because of her.
Clearly. I hear it. As you're talking about her, I hear that. I hear that. So, Chambogo, you come to Kampala.
Life in the city. It's interesting to look back at those times. I had been, I think, to Kampala once. Sometimes I keep telling my friends these stories. I'm like, you people, you were born here in the city. For us, we've just come to your city. The only difference is that we came to the city, but we are not going back. We are running this city together. So I come to Chambogo. It was different, I must say.
Did you miss home?
I missed home, but also what I couldn't imagine is that now my mother was out of sight. My mother is such a control freak. I remember the first day at uni, I'll never forget. First of all, she picked my admission, paid my school fees. Probably that she would have even brought me to school, I mean campus. She would have.
If she could.
If she could. But because she had come to pick the admission, she couldn't come back again in 2 weeks' time. So she sent me, and I came by myself. Had a relative whom the relationship was is. So she was able to call them and say, if you could help me and have her for two days as she goes to school on Monday, and just help to drop her. Nothing. And they were kind to do it, which I appreciate. So that's how I was able to start uni. But I remember the first night, I couldn't believe. I remember going to the custodian and say, so are we supposed to leave the kids? Said, no, here at university on your own. Said, it's your key. You open your room when you want. You close. I said, what do you mean? Even if I come back at midnight. Said, it's your key. It's your room here at university. We are not police. That was the biggest shock of my life. I'd never
So it used to be controlled and protected. And
all I knew was my mother's control.
Yes.
Rules. Which I look back now and I appreciate. Of course, there was not so much balance. Though we talk about it now, and she said that's all she knew. What to do at that point, and mixed with the fear of what if things fail.
Yes.
So even when we keep saying that she had such a military rule, I know it was extreme because she also didn't know so much of how to balance. So all I knew was my mother's control. You went to church, you sat alone with her. After church, you went home. I don't understand it when I see young people now hanging out at Acacia Mall by themselves. Where are your parents? Where are they? How do you leave home?
Yes.
We
Do
never
your people
visited.
know where you are?
Sleepovers. I see my kids asking me for sleepovers. How? It was never a thing. How do you just wake up and say, Mommy, drop me at the cinema, will you pick me later? How? I never experienced that. So anyway, that was my biggest shock of now I am out of my mother's sight and control.
And you can do whatever you want.
And I do what I want. I felt like whereas it grounded me, I also feel like it had some disadvantages.
So you felt like you didn't know how to handle the
Yes,
freedom?
I didn't know how to balance, especially like life, relationships, like such things, because they're not things we talked about.
Okay.
All I knew was that my mom was seeing me. I told people that I left uni when I'd never stepped in a club. Zero. Because I kept saying, what if she calls me and I'm not in my room? What if, what if, what if? So that's what uni was. I did procurement and supplies chain.
Okay. Is that what you're practicing now?
Yes. I practice so many things, but it's also part of what I'm practicing.
Also yes. Because I like to ask, what you did at university, what you did in school, does it come to play in your life today? Yeah, and the funny thing is, most people say in some way or another, yes, it is.
Yeah, it still does. And my mother got me to do procurement. Okay. You can't imagine.
What did you want to do?
I guess I remember I used to say that I want to read news. I don't know from what perspective, but I grew up with the confidence of being a beautiful girl, which our mother instilled in us. So I used to think that I think girls who read news are beautiful. And since I'm beautiful, I think I'm destined to read news. But then
on TV.
I don't know if it was TV, but they needed to see me.
Okay.
So somehow. So that's what I wanted to do. But then later at that time, my mother, oh bless her, she was so involved in everything. She's alert. By then, that's when they were launching NADS projects. I don't know if you've heard of the NADS program project. And she always, even up to now, fights for equality. So when they did a committee by parish level, she said, you have to put me. This whole committee has men. So they put her and she was in charge of procurement. That's when they were supplying farmers with, I guess that's how this whole idea of model farmers started from. And she was in charge of procurement, procuring things for the other fellow farmers. So she said, I think this course, I've learned that this procurement thing works. I think this is a good course. Also, it's still new. If you do it, you might end up and come and serve at the district level. Since I already know people, I think this will work for us.
So in her mind, she could see a path for you.
Yes. By then, procurement was still relatively new. So at the time for filling the forms, it was among the courses that I filled and I was admitted for.
Oh my goodness. She's had such a major influence.
Yes.
In your life.
She's had really a big influence on our lives.
So leaving school, what happened then?
Did I wait to leave school? I lived through school. Guess who had a child in their second year? Me, from my strict African mother. That's why I was telling you that there was the balance there disturbed me a bit.
But we have our beautiful son, so it's okay.
It's the most beautiful thing. Every time I tell people I have a candidate at the level of national curriculum, I'm like, I have a 12-year-old, and they're like, you have a 12-year-old? How? It's the most beautiful thing. So,
but how did that go down with your mom?
So now, second year, I didn't know all these things. Like my son was telling me recently about dating. He's in P7. And we're talking about dating as a clique of boys at school and asking each other, so is the girl tall? So what do you think? And I'm like, what do you mean? At 12? At uni? I knew nothing about what do you mean by... So one of the things, we never had such conversations in life with our mother. Yeah. All we knew is that we had to do our best to perform well in school to be, so there was no balance of where you sit with your mother and say, oh, what if a boy talks to me? What do I do? Oh my God, how do you even come to tell your African parent that you have a boyfriend? So for me, some things...
African parents are so special. You are not supposed to know, look, see someone of the opposite sex until campus and they're like, where's our husband?
Yeah, who is the person? But where would I have found the person? So in second year, I met this guy whom I had known in our family, in the bigger family relations, because his cousin sister is married to my cousin brother.
Oh, okay.
So I had seen him at the extended family parties. Yeah, so I meet him. I don't know if it was love at first sight, being young, mixed with all that. I don't think I told anyone about it. The next thing I was swept off my feet. I look back and say, oh my God, is it nice to be young? Oh, because I don't think I had. Oh, I see like young people now say, oh, you know, I'm dating this guy, but there's some red flags. We didn't know red flags.
Thank you. Then you fell
when
and you
fall
were in love and it was finished.
Yeah. Those things of, oh, I'm second guessing. We didn't have those things. You found the person. So you meet this guy, but the most important thing, he was kind. He was kind. I mean, and the next thing, I was pregnant. Sometimes I look back and be like, okay, what was I thinking at that point?
I think you were feeling. We were not thinking at that point.
Not thinking, I was just feeling. Oh my God, I don't know. It took so much courage for me to tell my mother.
Yeah.
But there was a background to it that I feel that cushioned me a bit in 3 ways. One, my mother had me when she was a bit older, in her 30s. Because back then, girls got married at 16, 20.
Yes.
So by the time she had me in her 30s, actually people wondered why she wasn't having children. But at a village level, they considered her as an intellectual of, you know, her.
But she studied this one.
She went to Kampala. You know, those girls, they delay to get married. She had me in her 30s. So she had, I guess she also had issues with conceiving me. I think she's mentioned that. So when I was in my S6 vac, I used to have painful periods. And that's when we went to see a local doctor, I said, oh, I think she has like endometriosis, you know, and
you know, even today, it's so difficult for someone to diagnose it.
Yes. So I said she has like a thick lining, but you know, as they grow, some of them, she's still young, it sheds away. So I feel that it kept within her of, what if my girl gets delays to conceive like I did? So I feel like it was a mixed reaction when I finally told her that I had conceived. She was like, oh, okay, it's the wrong timing, but I think she can conceive. Which even at uni, I had, like in my first year, I had really terrible periods. Same thing. So she used to say, maybe as time goes on, it gets better. So I feel like when I told her, it was mixed reactions. Of course, she couldn't tell me the other part of feeling like, oh, thank God. But her first immediate decision was, you're not going to come back to the village. 2-hour toxic village. Remember?
Oh.
There's no way. She said there's no way.
People are not going to see you like that.
Because she's going to be the talk of the village. I mean, I don't know. The heartbreak. Because, you know, raising girls, they used to tell, oh, you're raising girls, they'll get married, they will not reach university. You know, you've sacrificed all your money. You know, you're proud. Because most people let their girls, like my age mates, I look back in the village, most of them have like 8 children by now, 6. So people never cared about educating girls. But they were seeing this woman who was doing all she could to educate her girls, and they would ridicule her of, what if they get married? And now here I was, pregnant.
Yeah.
And you know how people referred children of a woman. Kabana b'omukazi, you know? such a thing. You know, when children turn out well, they're for the man. When they turn out bad, they're for the woman. So she carried that sort of blame, shame. So her first instinct was, you're not going to come back to the village. So she asked the other relative of hers if I could stay with them.
Okay.
Of course, eventually people later got to know, but I think the most important was this guy married me. So I think that, and I still continued with school. So her first promise was, one, you're going to keep the pregnancy, but you must finish.
You must finish.
You must finish. And that's all she asked from this man of, I want her to give birth, but I want her to finish her degree. And I feel like that gave her so much comfort. And because he was really assuring of, no, she's going, because he actually took over paying my school fees at this point. I was able to have team. I remember had 2 weeks to exams, still did exams and graduated in time. So I feel like that, but of course it was difficult.
Yeah.
For her to, I remember there's a time there was a party, like a family related party, and I couldn't attend the party because now people were going to see me pregnant, you know. And so people just knew that, you know, from the village, when you went to Kampala for university, it's hard to come back.
Yes.
So people assumed you're in Kampala, you're at the university. So that helped a bit. But it was, I could imagine that it was difficult for her to process it. It was difficult for me as well.
It probably would have been harder if you know, if your man wasn't by your side. I think a lot of parents are a lot easier on it when they see that you have someone who's serious about you.
Yes.
And not running away.
I guess that was the comfort, because he was there. I said, no, I'll marry her. I'll take care of her school fees right away. I know he had actually started to do, I think, like the previous semester. I think he was laying his foundation.
So he knew what he wanted.
Yes.
Leaving university, did you start working with your husband at that point, or what happened?
No,
Did you become a stay-at-home mom at some point?
Yes, so now I had to finish school. So now I had a baby in second year. We wedded 9 months later. Yeah, on our wedding, I gave birth to Timothy in November, wedded July, which was 9 months later. I remember I was doing internship. Now it was a third year, because the other time November was end of second year. So now it was July, we were doing internship. But it was tricky. You just had a baby who hasn't made a year. Bless my sister. All this time, people have never understood why my sister and I are close. We've grown up together. We've parented together. So thank God at that point she was in her S6 vac. I hope people don't calculate our years now. She was in S6 vac, so she came to stay with me. So all that time when I had a baby and going to school, she was my kid's caretaker.
Okay.
Second mother up to now. So now it was her turn to join uni, because now it was 8 months later. You know, they join in August. I'd started training to the procurement department to start the job. 3 months later, you know how we struggle with domestic workers. On a random day, I go back home, this baby is crying, the little miss has left her, has left him, he has gone. So I'm like, I'm stuck. At that point, we took a decision that I stay home. I hadn't gotten the contract to start, so I was just still like doing volunteer work. So I stayed home. For the longest time, actually, I had 5 good years at home. Until I had Mark. I had Mark, then a year later is when I started going to work full-time. So my first years, I was a full-time stay-home mom, and not the modern stay-home moms that I see. No, I had no helper. I took care of the kids, took care of the home. But also for me, I think it was from the orientation of growing up.
Yeah, because
I did
you
everything.
also did that.
Yeah. When we grew up, for us, I have experienced a helper in my adult life. When we grew up in my village, we never had such settings. We did all the work ourselves.
Yeah.
So in my first 5 years, I was a
You're a full-time
311
mom.
stay-home mom.
But you know, I always like to hear these stories because it's a reminder that there's seasons. There's seasons in our lives, and there's a season for you to be home, sometimes with your children. Sometimes there's a season to really throw yourself into your work.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of women, when their children are young, they're home. Then when the children get older, they get back to working and get back to whatever else they want to do. So
And
I'm still thinking, you know, Dorin, I'm still thinking about you wanting to read news. In fact, you said you wanted to be seen. Isn't it so interesting that social media said, hey,
Here you are.
how did that start? How did you start getting active on social media?
As a stay-home mom, and I keep telling people about seasons, even now, I look back, I actually wish someone can give me back those 5 years. I don't think I lived them fully, or I lived lukewarm about it. You know, they say when you have something, you do not know the value until you lose it. The first 5 years laid so much foundation for my children and for my passion now. People keep wondering if I went to a culinary school. In those 5 years, that's all I did.
So you were trying recipes.
Try them. Then there was a time when now kids started daycare. So I had this whole morning to myself until I got to pick them at midday. That's how I started my foundation of cooking. I wish I would go back, and I don't have time. Now here I am. I leave home at 5, 6. I return home sometimes at 9. I travel for weeks. I no longer enjoy the kids. I don't enjoy my home. So that's why I keep telling people, enjoy the seasons. Utilize every bit of it. Because when I had that time, I lived it. Though, of course, you'd be like as if the world is leaving me and all that.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm grateful that I had those first 5 years. And in those 5 years, I knew Facebook. Now, that's all we knew when we were at campus. So there was a group of stay-home moms.
Okay.
So we would meet to share what it feels about being a stay-home mom. And then out of that, people picked an interest on cooking. So we started saying, oh, I'm home. Oh, so what is your meal plan? What do you cook like? And there was a lady, she's actually now in the industry. We keep talking about it, how our passions have grown differently. She's making money out of it. She keeps saying, we started this together. I'm sure you would be having either like a culinary something. So we keep saying our passions have grown, but in a different way.
Yeah.
So she started hosting us in her home. Would all say, oh, someone knows how to make chapati. For you know how to make this. Let's meet and we try out recipes. Just like that.
Wow.
We keep talking about the many times we would fail to flip fish on a pan and it would break and
It's an art.
I remember one specific one, we tried a whole fish like 3 times. So we started out as stay-home moms. And also I keep telling people that growing up as the first child, all I did was housework, and I know that cooking was one of the things I enjoyed most. Even when I left home, let's say went to boarding, my mother kept saying that one of the things she missed about me was the cooking. So I loved cooking. So I didn't know any other thing to do. I grew up without a TV, so up to today, I don't watch TV. My TV is now social media, maybe. But somehow I wanted to read news, but I don't know where. So I don't watch TV up to now. Every time I hear you people talking about series and absolutely know nothing. Yeah, so all I did was take care of the children, and if I had time in between, go in the kitchen, practice this. But you see, it had this foundation of interest from growing up.
Yes. You actually enjoyed it.
Yes. So I joined the Facebook group. Facebook was booming then. Then that was the time of Kampala Food Network. I don't know if you're familiar.
I remember.
Kavitha, I don't know if you know Kavitha. But then they started
yes.
Kampala Food Network. It was a huge group. It was so, not huge, it was small and intimate. So where I go back sometimes, once in a while, I go back and read those posts where I would be asking, how do I make coleslaw? And they're like, hey, we didn't know coleslaw? You mean? So we'd ask, and people who knew would tell us, then you practice, you share on the group, and you're like, how did it work? How is it? Then someone says, oh, I made chapatis, this is how I made. Then you also try. So so that's how I learned social media, Facebook. Then much later, Facebook grew big. It was
It
overwhelming.
exploded at some point.
Yes, it exploded, and now it was so different. My sister,
Because then you had like a community.
yes, it was more of a community. I remember the things I posted. Then when I go back and I say, I'm like, I can't post them now. How? They'll be judging me. Would post, how do I deep fry?
Please be kind. We all start somewhere.
Yes,
be kind to
like,
yourself.
Be like, oh, it was so safe that we posted such things,
Yeah.
because no one would bash you, nothing.
Yeah.
And most of people whom we started that group with, most of them I see they have gone into food business somehow. So my sister being young, and by the time for her she joined uni, things were better, even for us, because she was staying with me. Now for her, she had been in Kampala longer. So for her, she knew about Instagram.
Yes.
She opened for me an Instagram page.
Your sister opened your Instagram page.
Yes, and that page had been there for the longest. But all I knew was that Instagram was a place for fashion.
In the beginning, yeah.
Yes, so all I thought, as a girls dress up nicely, look good, wear makeup, this is not my place. So I would come open on the page, see what is happening in the city, but I never participated on Instagram. COVID comes, and we are home, and now for me, I was at my best. I'd shifted into my home. We had all this time, we were home full time, all of us. COVID was the best time I brought out my passion. Every day I was throwing a party at home, put out my fairy lights, did all sorts of these things. So my sister would still post. And people would ask her, we are in COVID for you, where are you? And she'd say, no, this is home, we are home. We did theme parties in COVID, we did camping in our compound, we did movies. So she would post. So then people would ask her, where are you? She's like, we're at home. Or people would ask her, so how did you make this food? She would come and then ask me, so DK, how did you make the potatoes? I'd explain to her. And my sister is not into food, and it's none of
she's
her
into
business.
travel.
Yeah, don't tell her about cooking. She's that kamemo of, we are not all meant to cook. Some of us are meant to be giving KB to people who are cooking. So she's that person. So she would come and say, explain to me, so that I go and tell people who are asking me. Then later she said, but DK, you're stressing me. Why don't you post these things yourself?
Okay.
On your page, you have the page. The page was there. So I didn't know how they post. I knew nothing. So she said, why don't you post yourself? But then I would keep asking myself, but are there people who are passionate about things like plates, cups, home, setting? Are there people?
Because that's what you were passionate about.
Yes, because for me, that's all I knew. And then during COVID, I had started on my online etiquette training.
I want to know, how did that even happen?
Why
did you even decide to do etiquette?
That was triggered by my love for food. So along the lines as my love for food and a deeper understanding, I feel like some things play out with overthinkers, because if I see this cup, I'm so intrigued on how it's made. What do you think? Why do you think they made it this way? What do you think they used it that make it so nice? So as my love for food grew deeper and more wider, now I started to want to understand things that come along with food, like tableware now. So I said, okay, now I've learned the food, but why does the fish knife look different? Why is it that there are different serving spoons for different things?
Right.
So even when I've done etiquette on a broader way, I still feel that my interest has remained more to dining etiquette. Even when I've done protocol, because you do all things in the etiquette training, I still feel that I'm more leaning to dining etiquette. So now I picked a curiosity of, okay, now I love the food. I love the food art, the plating. It belongs to fine dining. But fine dining now comes with so many other things.
Yes.
Why do we have different glasses? Why are these? So that my love for food drove me into etiquette.
Okay.
So then we're in COVID. So I started reading about it. I said, why don't I pursue it? When I did it, I didn't think I would make money from it. I wanted to empower myself to know more. And I come from a feeling of I love to speak from authority. I never want to be someone when I stand to speak and you're like, was she sure about what she was saying? So whereas I was reading Google information, I didn't want to be acting on that basis because anyone can read the Google information. So I would read and say, okay, what's this? I didn't know anything. I never knew seafood. I mean, I grew up in Chempene, we knew nothing. So now I had taught myself all these things. But now I was curious. But then seafood needs a different tableware. Why? But also the way I've seen it, how do you eat it? So that drove me into etiquette. Now it's COVID. We are doing nothing. So I started to look online. I see the British School of Etiquette. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'd initially wanted to join the American Culinary School, but it needed me to go and commute for 9 months. And then my kids were younger, I couldn't. I had ventured Nairobi, which needed me to commute for 3 months.
Okay.
Again, it was very difficult for the young children. So I found online training. I started training. So the whole of COVID, I was training with the British School of Etiquette, which is now the British School of Excellence. So that's how I got into formal etiquette training, though it's not something that has picked up a lot in our country, but I love that one day we'll get there. So that's how I got into etiquette training.
No, I have to say, I mean, for me, that's one of the things that really caught my attention, my interest, because I was like, oh my goodness. Because I think I did some etiquette training when I was very young. And I remember some of the basics. And then I started to see your videos, that and your love for food, the two things.
Yes.
But I remember it being very unique. And also the fact that your style was very unique. Most people want to talk, speak, say things. I mean, now Reels have changed that.
Yes.
But before Reels, videos, people would say, this, and you were like, you know, little cute things. So how was that? So there you are. Now you have a camera, whether you like it or not.
Yeah. So
and
now
you're in front of the camera and you start doing these videos. How were they received?
So first of all, I wasn't sure. So when my sister in COVID started to say, post this, sometimes I scroll back to my last post, my first ever post, and I'm like, what was this that I was posting? Random things. So now I started
Your sister used to film you?
Yes, she would take because she loves pictures. Actually, most of my videos, that's how I feel like I'm not consistent with content. Because if my sister is not home with me, I don't have the time.
Okay.
I mean, working a full-time job, family, kids, and all that.
Yeah.
So when I'm home, I'm focused on getting the work done, and I'm very fast by nature. So I don't pause to say, let me record. If she's around, perfect.
Isn't that the trickiest thing about food?
Yes.
Because a lot of people don't realize how much
it
time
takes.
and work goes into filming food.
Yes, you're cooking, the actual cooking is so much work. Then I also add filming and turning the camera. I'm focused on achieving food in the fastest time possible. If I put out all the content that I do at home, sometimes I feel like, wow, this universe would be appreciating so much more. But at the time and figuring it out.
Yeah.
So she starts to say, post them on your page. But I wasn't sure if people loved such things. I'd not seen them, honestly, maybe because I also don't consume a lot of content. I hadn't seen some. All I see were cute girls in their cute attires,
makeup and
hair pieces that I don't have. I don't own foundation. It's like, so what brings me to the Instagram? So anyway, I started to do like a photo dump, saying Sunday lunch, that. Then I post like 10 pictures. Or evening tea. Then people would come and say, oh, how did you make this? And I'm like, oh, so you mean that people were interested?
Okay.
So now somehow I started to feel safe that there are people who are like me.
There's interest.
Yes, I was like, oh, you mean there are people who are more interested? So now even started to, so people would write in the comments, give us a recipe, give us a recipe. So now I learned that when I post a picture, I add a recipe. So now I'm like, oh, I think there are people who like this. And it was really nice to connect with other people whom we talk about the same things, people who liked setting up their tables at home. It felt so good to interact with people of the same of the same setting, of
Yeah.
same interests, really.
We've talked about, of course, the etiquette videos and your etiquette training, but can we just talk about the eye? I think you have such a good eye. Your table settings are so beautiful. Sometimes I'm like, eh. I look at my table at home, I'm like, Dorin would be ashamed of you. So ashamed of you. Because you really take time, and that's also attention to detail. And I feel like that says a lot about you as a person. That means you are that person, attention to detail. You want things to also be
Certain way.
perfect.
That stems from my mother. I keep saying that, oh, I wish my mother was a town mom. I don't know. People find me really so neat, organized, but if you meet my mother, I've stayed with her now in the last 8 months. She has been unwell, but I keep seeing how I can't even be half of what she is. She is so neat, even now, even in her sickness. If you meet me with my mother at the hospital, she's holding her knit bag, she's holding her scarf. She wants the bag to keep in a certain way. She laid so many foundations for me in terms of homemaking,
Yeah.
even etiquette itself, like manners. Because they're basic things that we've talked about, consideration and kindness. That's what etiquette is about.
Yeah.
Those stem from my mother. She taught us respect. Though for her it came as a discipline, but now that I look back, I see how much it was laying a foundation for me. So she has an eye for neat things especially. So that has shaped me, because my mother didn't take, oh, you need to put the cushion right. It has to be right. These things have to be in order. You had to do things in order. So that shaped me, and I feel like it has been such a big game changer. And then, of course, now building onto the passion and the training. So on the training, now mostly I would learn the technical bit of it, of should there be a tablecloth, should there not be a tablecloth? What is formal, what is casual?
Yes.
How do you set correctly for kids, for adults, for formal, for high protocol, and all that. So I feel like that training came and just polished me. But I was again still not sure that it was received here. Because I remember in the first days when I would post, there were more comments of women who say, oh, you just wake up to do all that work. And I'm like, oh, it's so much suffering. And I came with this whole thing of I need to show people that home is where you start from. Because we all look forward to go and dining at the restaurant.
To eat out.
To eat out. But I kept saying, we don't go out often. Well, for me, I don't go out that often. But why can't I have this same experience at home? Okay, if I travel and I see something nice, why is it that I can't create that for myself? So even when I started out sharing, I had a bit mixed reaction. People would be like, so who will wash all those dishes afterwards? I'm like, really? I'm like, who? It's you. Or you will create systems. So it was from that basis of I still want to inspire women. Okay, not inspire.
Yeah.
Find and women, and we hold hands together and say home is where you are. Home is where love lives, and you'll express it differently.
Yeah.
Could be gardening, it could be, but I mean basic
Could
things
be
like
gardening,
taking
it
care
could be
of
cooking, it could be so many different things.
taking care of you. Especially I keep telling people, you have children. I mean, they will not learn these things if you don't start them off when they're young, and where you're not going to teach your kids manners in a restaurant. It has to start from home.
Absolutely. So one of the things that you shared, I guess in the last few years, was some of the health challenges you were having, because now we see you're working out and everything, and you shared that now you're in a good place, but then there was a time where you kind of went quiet. Many of us do, because life happens also. We can't post every single day, but you were having some health challenges. Was it related to what you were going through when you were much younger, the endometriosis?
No, I guess that part was, I think it was like how people have like just a small layer, then it sheds off as maybe you conceive.
So it's gotten better for you.
Yeah, that really
I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, that really. And now growing up and then I learned that it's such a biggest challenge for women.
Yes.
So along the way, and that's why I started from that. I think 7 years ago I should have been assessed for anything neuro, because that level of obsession, I guess, wasn't okay. I grew up with extremes of people who know me. I'm the most talkative, happiest, bubbly, but I would also flip and be not sad but sensitive, crying. 1 minute I am sad, something has annoyed me, and
So emotions,
yes,
extreme emotions.
extreme emotions. And I even remember that I grew up, even in school, they'd be like, you can flip. Like, 1 minute you're bubbly, then the next minute you're not. And then people would be like, but you don't understand how 1 minute you are vibing, I have energy. I'll be vibing on top of that table, but the next minute I'm quiet. Be like, So I think as you grow up and life intensifies, the imbalance keeps growing, and then as life events also happen. So now I later come to realize that I guess I had something to do with my mental state. Like, to know that I need to take care of it. So that was the time I took a pause and really got sick. I guess the trigger was like depression. And you know how you become a high functioning depressive person, like you're just moving at the highest speed. You go through childbirth, work related, life related, and then all of a sudden you just come from 100 to 0.
You crash.
You crash. So whereas you would think, I think for me is that I was a high functioning, there's high functioning anxiety, there's high functioning depression, there's high functioning autism, and all sorts of high functioning. People think that either autism, anxiety, depression is staying in bed, crying. You can also be high functioning. In a blink of an eye, you've climbed that building.
Can also be the extreme.
Yes, that also extreme. So for me, I think I was working hard. I would work day and night. I remember they used to say I work across East Africa. They used to be like, why don't you be like Dorin? Even at 2 a.m. she's responding. I work on time.
No, that's not a good thing.
I know, I work on time difference. I would be awake at 2 a.m. You've sent me an email in the next 2 minutes. But why am I working? I'm not sleeping. I don't have sleep. I have and I don't sleep. By 4 a.m., enter the shower, change. It's time to take kids to school, start a new day. Where you are working non-stop. I just came from that 100 to 0. If there is anything you ever need to note in your life, if you don't sleep.
You literally feel like you're going crazy if you don't sleep.
Wasn't. Do you know, going through a season where you're not sleeping, and for you think it's a good thing, and you find it to be like, I'm on a high on energy.
In fact, you're feeling good about yourself.
You're feeling, yes.
I don't need sleep.
I'd return home and I'm like, okay, I think let me sort my things. I start sorting out my things, then cook dinner. Everyone goes to bed. I'm like, I had some pending things on my laptop to do. Let me just pick my laptop. Start working. It's midnight. They're like, okay, now it's midnight. It's almost morning. Why don't I push until 2, 3? I came from that. And then you see, as you grow into that poor sleep pattern, then your brain's chemical imbalance, the doctors can explain to us better, your brain's chemical balance keeps really like getting out of shape. Then your moods change. Because one of the things I had now, I was so moody. You're frustrated even by the wind itself. The weather just changing is irritating you. There's nothing that triggers moods like lack of sleep. I came from that 100. Like, even just telling me one thing would make me cry. Then a friend of mine is the one who noticed and said, I think you're not okay. Because 1 minute we are talking, you're happy, then the next minute you're not.
Did you feel like something was wrong?
No, what I felt was wrong was the not sleeping. But she said, no, you're growing irritable. I'd be irritable at anything. Actually, well, the thing that triggered my last bit, I guess like what they call your last moment to get off the tip was a stone. We were renovating our house and we needed to put black or gray stones. So I asked that I see a sample of both stones,
Okay.
black and gray.
Yeah.
So the person brings back gray stone. It's like, this is gray. Black is black, the black you know. We all know black. I'm like, we all know black. I burst out. You wouldn't understand if your mind is not sick that you'd cry over stone. I cried. I didn't talk to anyone. I didn't sleep. I am crying over what? A stone, because some like, you don't get it. Eh? You don't get it why I wanted to see both gray and black. You probably, if I came to you and say, Crystal, this is black and gray, be like, oh, kawa. But if your mind is not well balanced at this point, your mind is sick. And that's why I want people to look at mental health in that way, that your brain is sick.
Yes, yes.
The reason you are crying over a stone is not because people say you're highly sensitive. Is that there's something, your chemical reaction is out of range. What would make you cry over a stone and not sleep?
I know, and you know, many women actually do struggle with
Yes,
that.
you would be fussy
and you
with
feel
it.
like you're not even in control of yourself.
Exactly. You'd be fussy about it, but move on.
Yes, but it's not that big a deal, right?
Exactly. But you've seen the fact that you never move on.
So
Then-
something would happen, it would trigger you,
and
and
it
then you'd be
spills
stuck over that thing.
Yes, you know, you circle over the same. By next morning, they say that everything is okay. Overthinking is okay. Panicking is okay until they start to affect you.
Yeah. and
Because
affect
thinking
your
about
life,
something, you'd say, okay, today we had a shoot and you start to think, what will I put on? How will the guest be? What if the guest? That's okay.
Yeah.
But Crystal, if it's 4 a.m. and you're not sleeping because you're thinking about our shoot, then now there you are a bit going into extreme. Now this is what was happening to me.
Okay.
So a friend of mine walks to me, I guess because she had gone through a depressive episode and she was recovering. So she would see what she was going through is what I was going through. She comes back and says, we need to go to the hospital. You're not okay. You're not okay. I said, no, you know, I've always been an anxious person. I used to think that anxiety is personality. So I used to be someone who is ever panicking about everything. And that makes you get into burnout because you end up doing everything yourself. So I used to think, that's such a personality. You know me, I'm always anxious. Crystal, if you say you're going to call me at midday, please better call me at midday. Because at exactly 5:59, I'm calling you. And I'm like, you promised me at midday you haven't called. Is there a problem? Or I'm not those people you say, I want to tell you something, but wait a bit.
Why can't you tell me now?
Tell me now, because my stomach
Because
will
you're
be
going to
paining.
think about it and
I'll
what
think
is
about
it.
I'll be
And
like, I think maybe it's me who is wrong. I think, but she's fearing to tell me and all that.
oh, wow.
So a friend of mine says, you know, we need to go and see a doctor. I didn't tell anyone at this point, so actually we go and I explain to the doctor and it's like, you are severely depressed. I said, me, the happiest person who lives my best life. I have some money, I'm managing Kampala. How do you tell me? I'm living my best life. He's like,
And you're thinking that I'm not in bed, I'm
Yeah,
not
I'm
covering
in
my
bed.
head.
Yes,
And
but I look, so now we talk with my doctor and said, you were telling me uncoordinated things. One, you have this one extreme, then again, you would be here. And I'm saying, but you know what? I don't think life is there's nothing big about life, nothing. And you see when people start to talk like that, it might be passive, but that's not how people who have studied the brain understand it. So the doctor says, no, the first thing that we need to do is we need to get you down to sleep.
yeah.
Oh, so I'm like, I used to think that depression is people being sad.
Yeah.
I'm like, but I'm not sad.
If someone is sad and
Yeah,
crying
they're
all the
crying.
time.
I'm like, but I'm not sad. So when I called my friend, I said, so I went to the hospital, and this is what the doctor has told me. They've given me medicine for 2 weeks. I go back home with the medicine to try to make me sleep. By 2 weeks, by the time I went back to hospital, the doctor said, no, you can't go back home. You can't. You can't go back home. It had gotten bad. Said, you can't go back home. You're not sleeping. You are restless. You're irritable.
So even those 2 weeks with the
Yes.
medication, you
There's
still
nothing.
weren't sleeping.
Yes, I wasn't sleeping. I was so irritable. He's like, no, you are not going anywhere. I stayed in hospital for over a month.
Really?
Yes, and now then that's when you go down to proper assessment, checkups, and I feel like that was such a flip in my life. Yeah, I guess I had to first crumble down to again rebuild.
back.
So I feel like I'm in my rebuilding phase.
Phase.
That really took a toll on me. I understood so much about myself that I grew up not understanding, why I had different levels of obsession, overthinking, the panic attacks, the anxiety, that whole time. I had treatment here, I had treatment in Nairobi, constant assessment, and I finally now understood why I was the way I was all time growing up. It was not the little girl who would be happy 1 minute and not happy the second. So I learned that, I was on the spectrum of mental challenges. Now this is
Was it
it.
a bit of bipolar?
Yes, a bit of that. I have grown to talk about it now. I mean, I don't. It's not a shame.
No,
But I've
many
even,
people deal with anxiety, like
Yeah.
you're saying. To some degree, bipolar. These are things that we're now learning.
I even had a discussion with one of my friends who said, I guess what you missed was to do an assessment for autism, because sometimes you present with the highest form of obsession. He said, you see, we have many undiagnosed autistic adults. What
Yes.
helped us, like in African societies, is that we're able to get speech.
Yes.
You know, we think that autism is not being able to talk.
To
But most
communicate.
of us, whereas we have speech, we are struggling because autism affects behavior, affects social.
Yeah.
So you find some people and you're like, oh no, they are so and social. They never, but they struggle.
Yeah.
They never get themselves to get you. They don't seek play, or they don't, if you don't come to them, they will not come to you. It's just because we've grown up to think that if you're talking, you're okay. But so many people struggle with different things. So I learned that was a bipolar thing. And I guess the most important thing is the acceptance.
Yeah.
To accept and know, so this is my problem. This is how now I need to deal with it. It doesn't come so easily. It didn't come so easily for me, even to be able to talk about it, knowing the stigma of surrounding our mental health. I keep saying we are the most learned but ignorant people.
But don't you also find it interesting, like what you know now, the people in your life, sometimes even our family, we get to understand them better. Because like what you're saying, you'll have a family member who's extremely antisocial.
Yes.
You have a family member who, they do certain things that are, I don't want to say normal, no, that's not the word, but maybe are
Different.
extremes in different ways, right? And when you get to know more, you're like, oh, this makes sense.
This makes sense. I feel like I have understood people more from my perspective. I am more understanding. It has helped me talk to other people, because whilst people are thinking, for example, I struggle with transition.
Okay.
It's a thing of the mind. So for example, if you tell me we are meeting at 10, then 10 comes and you say, I've moved to midday. Whereas for you, you will quickly say, where?
Okay.
Now for me, it will first bring me a bit down. I need to process it.
Right.
So why did we move from midday? Did she think that there was a problem with midday? You have to repeat to me again and again.
Wow.
I struggle with transition. I'm like, what do you mean? And that's how, like in challenges like autism, you find they're obsessive with
About
something,
certain
and they
things.
excel at it
Yeah.
because they're doing one thing again and again. That's why they say if you find like an autistic child or adult and they know how to swim, they will excel.
Yes,
Because
yes,
that's
yes.
all they do. Day in, day out. You can't tell them
And
leave
that routine
swimming.
makes them feel safe and in control.
Yeah, that's why I feel like all these things trickle down to the little things. I don't watch movies because I want to know what happened in the end. I can't live through that anxiety.
So a series would give you...
Yes, I take the same routes going home. Like the times I said there is traffic these days on the bypass, can we change? because I'm sure of this route that I've taken, January to January. Now you're trying to tell me to try another route. Okay, what if I get stuck? What if something happens? What if something happens to me? So that safety, for us, this way of life, we deal with assurance, you know. So that's what it was for me. It has been quite a journey. The first 2 years were really hard.
Yeah.
It takes a toll on you. It takes a toll on your body, on your work, on your family, on your parenting, on everything around you. Yeah. So that's what it has been.
Okay. So how are you coping now? Because what I'm hearing is you have a good understanding. It explains so many things about yourself as well that you thought were just you.
That were just me. Yeah. Now,
So which also allows you to also forgive yourself sometimes for things that have happened. How are you handling life now?
the first stage for me was acceptance. For example, when I was in hospital, I didn't want anyone to know that I was in hospital. I mean, the shame and stigma around mental health, which I don't understand, that I tell people every time, if you interact with me, you will talk about mental health. If you know me, we'll talk about food, etiquette, travel, mental health. Those 4 things. Somehow you want to interact with me and we don't talk about them. That anyone who carries a brain, they need to know that the same way your leg falls sick, that brain will be sick. Anyone.
That's a nice way to put it.
Unless you don't have a brain, but if you have a brain, it will be sick. It's not that people are difficult or what. Your brain gets sick the same way your heart will fail. It was difficult for me. I had underlying stomach challenges. So people would think maybe she's sick or because she had a gallbladder that was sick and all that. So it's like, okay, let them keep knowing that. Then, of course, then somehow people get to know. Then you meet someone whom you didn't think they would meet you in the hospital, and then they tell others. Of course, they affect you. Then, of course, people who struggle with mental health, they struggle with what people say because you can't get over it. Krista, if I come and say someone said, your dress was not cute, you're like, it's okay.
Yeah,
but
like,
if you tell me, I'll be like, I think they were right. Then you go back to the dress and you actually zoom it and see it and you're like, I think they were right. I think the dress was not nice. Now, why did I put it on? And that now drags you. Whereas for you, you'll be like, oh, she didn't like it. Oh, it's okay.
Because then that to me means that, somehow, social media, one of the downside is the negative comments. You can have 50 positive comments, but there'll be like 1 or 2 people.
That's how I am not on Twitter. Colleagues. That's how. Because they can't. Me. The week, I've asked my partner several times, if you post my picture on Twitter, come and show me what people have commented. Because the anxiety of reading such things. And
you posted the loveliest picture
and I'm like,
of you.
there's no way. Please show me what are people. Then when I see a bad comment, I'm like, you've not seen this person. Remove them. I'm like, that's how I can't. That's how I stopped recording etiquette videos. I actually went to my page and deleted some of them because they needed me to show my face. Yet for the food, all you're seeing, if you see my style of food videos, I want you to focus on the food. Yeah, don't look at me because now that's how someone will be like, oh, I think she's big. Oh, I think her hair was like this. Oh, I think the dress was like this.
And you take it so personally.
And then I take them deep in, I process them. And not alone processing them, they affect me. So my first step was acceptance. First of all, accepting the diagnosis. Because that was hard. I went to Nairobi for some time, quite a lot of time. And when acceptance came, I mean, with the help of the doctors, the psychologists, to know that we are all candidates of the same way. I don't think our parents grew up with diabetes and pressure. They found it along the way.
Yes.
The same thing.
And they have adjusted accordingly.
They have adjusted the same way. And for me, I keep telling people, we need to stop treating mental health like a stepchild of health. It's the same, physical and mental.
Like what you said, like any part of the body, the brain can also get sick.
It can get sick. So acceptance for me was the first step. When I accepted, this is my condition, this is my challenge, these are my triggers, this is my downside, these are my lows, these are my highs. Now, that understanding is what has helped me. Of course, understanding comes from the acceptance to know this is it. I probably will learn to manage it for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And to appreciate medication and to appreciate professional support.
Yes.
To know if I need to see my psychologist, I need to go. If I have medication, I need to take it. Because if I don't take it, how do I expect the chemical reactions to balance out, the transmitters to the brain? How do I expect them to balance if I'm not helping them with medication? So that was the biggest step for me. That took professional support, definitely. Yeah.
But in a way, it's a gift. You have a much better understanding of yourself.
Yes, of course it was hard because I needed to
yes, but
ask
at least
the doctors to
like you
explain
can,
to me.
to some degree, you feel like, oh, okay. So if I do this, if I take care of myself in this way, I can change certain things that maybe were really making me struggle in life.
Yeah. Even now, I mean, people who are close to me know that I struggle. Over the weekend, we had a wedding. I struggled to accept the dress that I was going to wear.
You looked gorgeous.
It
took yellow.
Yes, it took an intervention of over 10 people. I want to tell you, my brother in Japan, my bestie recently relocated to America. They were all on video to see me try that dress, to keep saying that it's working. I told them it's not. And for me at that point now, it's panic, it's anxiety, then I'm crying, then the next thing my stomach is paining, and I'm telling them it won't work. I am fat, it's not working, it's not what it was going to be. And now it's a do or die moment. And the brain has conceived that it's not going to work. It took an intervention of like over 10 people to say, okay, just put on the dress. It will work. Because there's something I've already conceived in my mind that I thought I would look, but it's not what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
So that's how like people with anxiety work with reassurance. Tell them and say, okay, I've figured this out. You had called me to ask for this. This is it. This is why it is. That's how people like me, you have to keep a routine. So also I told you that I wanted to come here because I knew if I stepped in office first, I would be late. And for me, being late is not, hi, Crystal, I'm 5 minutes late. Now my head is pounding. Then I'm sweating. Then the next thing, the panic. Then this conversation is not going to proceed.
Yes.
Because even palpitations are coming in. So that's why it is important for people who struggle with most mental health conditions to keep a routine. Do this, you know, you're going to, because the uncertainty gives so much anxiety. So that's what it has been for me. I have had to accept medication. I guess for most people, they struggle, and you know, people tell you it's just a phase, it's just a phase. Yes, there are depressive episodes, people who just struggle with depression, but there are mental health conditions where depression is part of your condition.
Yes.
Everyone should be happy, but you see, in life you should be happy. You should have this
Yes.
up and down.
You can't
you
be
should
this
be
all the
able
time.
to go to a party and you're happy. You should also be able to go to a funeral and you are sad, but you can't be at a funeral and you're laughing. Hey, you don't, the emotion, you see, or you can't be now at a party and instead you're crying. So those are the extremes in, for example, like bipolar, which I know a bit more, either 1 or 2. The difference is that in how long each phase takes, because when the low comes, it can be so low. Everyone in life experiences a low, like we've shared.
Yes.
But the low in bipolar is that when it comes, it's too low that you need a pickup.
Yeah.
It's not the low where you're like, today was a bad day, but in the evening I met Crystal, and by morning I'm okay. The low gets really low. Then you find the low is taking such a long time. Or either
you
the
can't
high,
pull yourself out of it.
or when the high comes, it is also taking you such a long time that you need to be calmed down.
Right.
You know, you're in overdrive. I used to joke about it. Now I don't. I used to tell my friends that I don't sleep in a plane. I'm the one holding the plane. That's overdrive. That's not necessary. It's, if you ever feel that way, then please ask for help. No one should be able that you're the one holding the plane. I'd be like, it's me who's holding the sky and the moon and the sun.
And you find in many families, or sometimes even in workplaces, there's that one person who is doing that.
and you're literally overwhelming everyone, and you're overwhelming yourself, and you never get to know. So that was it for me, learning about my condition. So Crystal, where I am to know, I'm able to tell my friends that I'm struggling, I'm sloping down, I feel it. So I will intensify going to the hospital, speak to my psychologist. If I need new medication at that point, like there's a point I had more panic attacks. And then now, and you see these things trickle down, affect your work. The same time I'd say, now when it's time for presentation, I will panic. I don't sweat then, but I would tell them I feel like I'm going to sweat. So I'll be like, okay, now you're going to take something to a bit calm you down. So now I'm able to know that I feel like I'm accelerating to the too highs.
Wow.
Though, of course, a bit as you take mood stabilizers, you have a bit some control,
Yes.
that you don't overfall, you also don't over get high. But for me to be able to realize it and to know, for example, Crystal, I'm able now to tell my friends, I'm like, for example, like at spin class, most people who are close to me, they know the days when I come, I wear a cape. If you've seen me in my videos, I wear my cape. Look, the days when I come with my cape like this, even if you're calling me, I will not respond. Then people who know will be like,
You're supposed to be left alone.
They will know that either something is either happening, and you know it gets worse around times like your period's about to come, then the triggers
for
are
us,
now.
our hormones
so I guess our
also.
hormones are now fighting. They're fighting someone who is already having instability in the body, so it gets a little bit more difficult than the rest. But I think for me, the realization of my challenge, like Crystal, if we're going to the airport, I am panicking. I'm telling my sister, I'm going to be late. My sister is like, no, let's first sleep for 2 hours. We will go at 4. And I'm like, no, what if the plane leaves me? You can't tell me. I've already seen it. It's leaving me. So you see, to understand those challenges and for her to be able to say, you know, okay, we're going to leave early. We'll wait closer. Or maybe for your comfort, we can go and sit and wait.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing. Because sometimes you hear from a mental health expert or, like you said, a psychologist or something, but hearing from you about how you've understood now also your challenges is really amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. And for also, I imagine many people being like, why is it these things I relate to?
So that's how I got into working out again.
Yeah.
Because now one of the so first of all, I had already gained weight, and now getting into mental health medication, I feel like it's one of, I've not experienced other types of medication, but one of the side effects that most people experience, that I experience, is that you gain weight. Because it affects your hormones, your body holds water weight, and different medication, the antidepressant, anxiety, and psychotics. I feel like I had tremors in my hands, I had tremors in my ears, I had swollen feet. I remember someone congratulating me thinking I was pregnant, and I could barely walk because my feet were swollen. So you know all that. Of course, as time goes on and maybe the drug burden goes down, because some of the things you start to manage and stabilize, and the body also balances a bit. So you find you're now taking maybe like 2 or 3 drugs a bit. So that, whereas it had found me when I'd already put on weight, then also the behavior bit of lifestyle, eating irresponsibly, and you see it has an emotional connection. You're sad, you eat. I've told people that for me, I've gone through nutrition psychotherapy because of how my lifestyle was affecting my mental health, and my mental health affecting my lifestyle. I am sad I eat, but after eating, I'm sad that I ate. You know, and then you keep in that cycle. So as time went on, one of my biggest triggers that I don't think I've talked about it, how I went. That's why I told you that now my approach to a healthy lifestyle is different. It's because one of my biggest triggers was diabetes and pressure. One, while the medication, I keep telling people that while the medication had side effects on me, I also lived a bad lifestyle. I keep saying, I don't want to lie, and we need to be honest with ourselves. We've led ourselves to where we are. Well, for me, I had eaten my way to that, though it played with my emotions and all that, but I also know that
you had a part to play.
I had a part to play. And now we had been constantly monitoring my insulin, and the doctor is saying it's bad. I understand that the antipsychotics could also have some play, but I think it's getting out of hand. And the next thing we need also to control this, because if we don't control it, now as we are treating a different thing, you don't want to have your organs being affected.
Yeah.
I went back home that night. I sat on my bed, I cried, I said, I start to take metformin that I've seen my mother take for 17 years. I know the drugs, I know. I was like, now I start on metformin now. I panicked, Crystal. Of course, the first reaction was that I need to start a crash diet. Of course, which I started 3 days and I failed. and I was back to zero. So that was my trigger now into this recome back.
Okay.
And that's why I tell you that now my approach is totally different. I want a healthy body. I want a healthy mind. For me, my mind now. And the doctors would keep encouraging me, even if you wake up and take just a walk, because I would struggle to get out of bed. But so even if you just walk, And now here I was faced with a health scare.
Yeah.
And then I kept saying, I can't be dealing with mental challenges. And I also had other challenges. You know, at that point, I was like tipped off the edge. I woke up, started saying, no, what do I do? I went to aerobics class. I found they were recording me. Who likes recording videos? The first time I entered an aerobics class, there was a camera like this. And that's why I tell you that me and cameras, there was a camera like this. I moved out. I said, they post me on TikTok. And then people
I have a very
saying,
dear friend who does workout videos, but I'm like, I'm sorry, no.
I'm like, they see me on TikTok, and you know how TikTok is. They'll be saying, that short, fat girl, she even doesn't know how to dance. I'm like, no way. No way. I left that class.
Oh gosh.
I go
like,
to the
not
gym.
This one.
I go to the gym. People are quiet. Generally, I'm not a quiet person.
Yes.
People are quiet.
You want to interact.
Yes, but also the pressure. You're seeing these men carrying 100 kilograms. And then there was a random person. And that's why I talk about kindness and understanding. There's this lady who came to me and said, hey, what are you doing? I burst and cry. Remember, you're someone who you wear your emotions by your sleeves.
Yeah.
Someone saying, you're doing it wrongly. I just burst and cry. Like, gym is not a place for me. I'm like, but I've had, maybe I joined Zumba. I go to Zumba. I'm like, where is the waist to shake here? I don't have it. I leave Zumba. There I'm still in my desperate days. I'm like, one day I'm at the gym. I hear music up. And I'm like, what's going on? It's a spin class. I enter.
You try that.
A friend of mine had been, not a friend of mine, my partner's friend was doing spin, and I had heard them talk about it. When they launched spin 7 years ago in my gym era, I knew about it. But we used to think that spin was for guys. We ignored it 7 years ago. But when the spin launched in Uganda, we're already into the fitness clubs. So I got to spin, and now for me, that's how environments work out for me. I find two people. One, the trainer himself was very kind.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't mention that I joined also another class where the trainer just stopped the music and said, you're lazy. You're lazy. There's no way you have to repeat it again. And I have told people that we've gotten used to unkindness, that we think that's the way to go. I said, that was wrong.
Yeah.
So the trainer comes to me and says, it's your first day. Take it at your pace.
Yes.
Even if you cycle
you can even get an injury.
Yes, he said, even if you cycle going backwards, all I need you to do is cycle. Just don't worry where the bike will be going. Then there was someone who knew my partner and came to talk to me after class. Said, no, it's okay. It gets better with time. Some of us have been cycling for 10 years, 8, and somehow, as I've told you, we work well with reassurance. So I felt like I think this is a good environment. That set my tone, by the way. That people don't know why I've never left that spin class. I've now moved to do other exercises, but I've never left spin. And that's why people know me by the spin class, because it's something that brought me back joy. I felt safe. For me, safety is safety reassurance works well with my mind. I said, I think this is an understanding place. So of course it was difficult for me, I must say, in the first days. But the coach would come and would keep saying, please come. And he didn't know me. I would say that maybe he knows me from social media, but he didn't know me at this point. He later learned over time when people kept coming to class and say, I came because of Dick. And then so he said, but who is Dick? What does she do? But at that point, he didn't know me, so he didn't give me any preferred treatment because he knew me. He is just a kind trainer.
And he's encouraged.
Yes, and he said, no, just take it at your pace. And then because I love music, I'd be like, at 6 a.m., me, I'm listening to music.
So it sets the tone for your day as well, right?
So I started by going to just leave bed. And say, let me just go and try. But remember now I'm carrying this fear of my health.
Yeah.
So I start going just to be happy. I was looking for happiness of, I'm trying to beat this sadness. So now I start to go. Then the next thing I'm feeling good. The next, I started of course with encouragement where someone has to encourage me to go the next day. Where I have to pack, to someone to let me know that I need to pack, arrange my clothes and do all that. Now by second, third week, now I'm pushing myself. I'm going by myself. No one has told me. I return home, I've packed my things, I'm ready to go. Then the next thing, I love it, I feel good. But then of course, as I'm making healthy changes in
but
your
I
didn't talk about
in
it.
your lifestyle.
Yes. Now that's the thing. Right now, I'm struggling with people who say, oh, she just lost weight. I'm like, what do you mean? Do you know I've been clowning for weight loss like since last year in April? But I couldn't talk about it from the fear of failing, but also because I had tried many things and failed. So I first kept quiet and said, I'm going to run away from the internet. I'll come back as a hot girl. But in this Kampala of wars and allegations, I said,
That's a tough one. I have a friend who started her fitness journey. Was guys, this is day 1, somewhere around day 20.
She's
and she's like, I can't even come back and post anything because I feel like people are judging me. Like, no, everyone goes through these
falls
things.
and all that. So I didn't talk about it in my first month because even me, I hadn't gotten hold of it. I had run into a detox plan. I failed after 3 days. Then I'm like, but I know how to do keto. Then I can do keto. Then the next thing I had run into one, then I was failing at everything. So the moment I started to master the consistency.
But now, also you found what works for you.
Yes, exactly. That's what I keep telling people. You've heard the stories of the things I did. Tried gym, aerobics. I tried over another class, it's like a stepper class, failed. Mainstream gym, that one I've failed up to date. It's not, I've realized it's not my place. That's why I have a home. If I'm not at spin, I'm at CrossFit. And for me, it's safety again. I later, when I now gotten hold of the exercise routine, I moved to CrossFit. It's the most safest environment. You have ladies who are your trainers, but also they are trained in the most professional way they want to see you doing body movements in the most functional way. But also it's a space where we don't go beyond 10. Sometimes we are 4. And for me, safety of my emotions is key for someone to see me and understand me. I moved into the class. You
also learn to protect yourself.
Yes, I moved into the first class and the trainer would notice that I'm anxious. And because we do functional body movements, she would realize I fear doing anything that goes behind. She'd be like, you're anxious. She would stand behind me and say, you're not going to fall. If you fall, you'll fall on me. Just proceed. And that has helped with my mind greatly.
Wow.
So for me, looking out for safe spaces is the first thing. If I don't feel safe, then it's different. So that's how I later started to talk about it, probably like by August. And then people all of a sudden, they're like, she's lost weight. What did she do? And I'm like,
they don't know the journey that
I've been clowning.
What you've been through.
For all these many months. But also what I tell people now, you can't joke around with your health until you have a scare. I keep telling people will say, no, I can't do it. You know, I can't work out. You guys wake up at 5 a.m. It's all okay until they tell you that now you need to live by this. You will wake up and do it.
True.
So I keep telling people, don't wait to reach at that level. I don't think I want any. If you ask me any advice, I'll tell a young person, don't be fat. Because the amount of challenges you're going to face are totally different. So that's how I'm into my new, I want to call it self-improvement,
This season
wellness,
now.
because now I'm doing, I went back to basics of Dorin, you can cook, you can feed yourself better.
Yeah.
If I was doing all these high fat meals, high saturated fat meals, I can still turn them into healthier versions. I picked my power back. Because I said, why am I struggling? All these things I can do. If I need to make, I love cake, but I can still make a better version. So what I am doing now, I am not on any diet. I don't follow any diet. What I have done is to adjust and feed my body in a wholesome way. I eat cake, I eat cookies, I eat bread, but what do? I know that for me, my body struggles with processing fat now because of now high cholesterol. So what do? Look for lower processed fat items. My challenge is wheat. So look for non-wheat replacement. So I think this is why it is easier for me. I carry my meals to work. I still eat beef. I eat chicken. I don't follow any strict diet. I don't miss meals. So what I have done is to readjust and take care of my body better, feed it alive food. That would be the best thing I can say. And do something that I can sustain, but also sustain for my family. Because now, there's no way I can make myself a smoothie and give the kids, let's say, porridge with butter, mixed with butter. So now, if we bake muffins, we are baking muffins for all of us. But I went back to basics of, I can find sugar replacements. I have the capacity, but also I can do it. So we still make, if we're going to make muffins, we'll make muffins using like chestnut flour, do bananas, do whole nuts, and still all of us be able, because you will be miserable. When your whole family, I have a family of 12, they are seated there eating, and for you all you're eating, because we've thought that with losing weight is eating 1 egg and 2 G-nuts and black tea.
And a carrot.
and one cucumber, you'll be miserable. I kid you not. They will go to bed, you'll wake up, the leftovers, you'll eat them.
So thank you so much. This was amazing. And I have to say, one of the things that has been very powerful for me is how we support. Because, I mean, I feel like everyone has a member in their family who is anxious, who is many of these things, who might get panic attacks. And it's important to be encouraging. It's important to be kind. I think in life in general. Yes, kindness. It doesn't cost you anything. But thank you.
Thank you for having me. It's been great. Please come for a spin. Come for CrossFit.
I knew I was getting an invitation.
That one.
Am I fat? Am I fat?
I keep telling people, just come. Just come for the vibes. You will live differently. You go back and you actually think. I keep telling people it's the 1 hour in the day where everything else doesn't matter. At this point, I'm not thinking about what my kids will eat tomorrow. If my work is pending, it's me. And that changes a lot to your brain. The fact that you choose to take care of it, and this brain is the one that rules the entire body. So, yeah, let's get up and put some effort.
Do something. Well, I'm happy for you.
Thank you so much.
And yes, much love to your boys.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. All the best. See you in the next spin class.